So today is day 5 of Kartik month. Very rapidly the days are ticking away, and before we know it, the wonderful month of Kartik will be over. So I'm glad to see all of you coming here and taking full advantage of this opportunity. Um, in this month of Kartik, we have this program where on a daily basis, before we offer a special arati with the offering of lamps, we have a brief discussion on the significance of the festival and on a certain theme that we have chosen. And for this year's Kartik festival, we have chosen this theme of 5 limbs of devotional service. So devotional service or bhakti has 5 limbs. And these 5 limbs are Sadhu Sanga, association with devotees, Nama Kirtana, or chanting of the holy names, Bhagavata Shravana, hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mathura Vasa, staying in a holy place, and Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, or engaging in deity worship of the Supreme Lord. So we have been so far discussing Sadhu Sangha, the first limb, and we will continue with that today. So as part of this, we have discussed various examples in the past. We looked at the example of Nalakuera and Manigriva, who are the sons of the treasurer of the Devatas, Kuvera, his sons, and how even though they were so deeply lost in intoxication, and in a state of intoxication, they were not even aware that they were completely naked and with other ladies in heavenly planets. And when the great sage Narada Muni approached there, while the ladies covered their bodies out of shame, but these two boys did not. They were completely spoiled because of being opulent and rich, sons of Kuvera. So Narada Muni took compassion on them and gave them a benediction that eventually led them to see Krishna face to face. When Lord Krishna in the baby form, as the Damodara pastime took place, Lord Krishna was in the baby form. He crawled between 2 trees, uprooting those trees. And out of these 2 trees, Nalakuera and Manigriva emerged because they had been cursed to become trees for thousands of years. And in that period of time, they were reflecting upon why they had been cursed. So we saw how a momentary association with a pure devotee like Narada Muni led to a complete transformation in the lives of those 2 boys who were completely spoiled. And then after that, the next day we saw the incidents of Mrigari, the hunter, where there was this person who had absolutely no compassion and took delight in killing animals in the forest. He used to hunt animals. And not only that he was hunting animals, but he would leave the animals half dead. He would take delight in looking and seeing those animals suffer. And that was the state of his degradation. By chance, he met Narada Muni, and his life was transformed. He completely gave up. He followed the instructions of Narada Muni. He gave up hunting. He threw away his bow and arrow, and he became a devotee. So we have been seeing how the power of Sadhu Sangha, the power of momentary association of devotees, can completely transform the life of even the most sinful person. And then we saw the life of Narada Muni himself. In the previous day of Brahma, 1 day of Brahma is how many years? 1 day of Brahma. Our 1 day is 24 years on earth. But in other planets, the days have different length. If you go to Jupiter, it's a different length of a day. If you go to Mars, it's a different length of the day. Similarly, in Brahma's planet, 1 day, when it passes on Brahma's planet, how many days or how many years would pass on earth? 365 days. That is 1 year on earth, right? So that is not the case. That is with the case of the Devata planet in say Indraloka or Chandraloka. There, 1 day is equal to 1 year on earth. But in Brahma's planet, Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, 1 day of Brahma is called 1 kalpa here on earth. And that equals, it is 4 billion years. 4.27 billion years on earth. That is equal to one daytime of Brahma. Then there is a night time of Brahma. And that together, it is 8.32 billion years. 8.32 billion years, 4.32 billion years. And the similar night time, that becomes 8.64 billion years. So how much is one day of Brahma on earth? How many earth years? 4.32 daytime, 4.32 nighttime, 8.64 billion years. So Narada Muni is relating that in the previous day of Brahma, that means 8.64 billion years back, something happened. Of course, it is several billion years. We cannot exactly say it's 8.64 billion. It could be middle of the day today, so it could be 4 billion plus 4, 2, or it could be 10 billion, for example. But he relates an incident as to how he was a small boy. He was just a child of a maidservant, and a very humble situation. And because he was non-envious and he served the Bhakti Vedantists very sincerely, by their permission, he once got to eat the remnants of the foodstuff given by the Bhakti Vedantists, pure devotees, who happened to be in that area. And by taking that prasadam, remnants of foods taken by those pure devotees, his life became completely transformed. All his sinful reactions were completely eliminated. And then, by following the instructions of those Bhakti Vedantists, by the end of his life, he achieved this new body. So this is the verse that we saw yesterday. Tatranvaham Krishna katha pragayatam anugrahena shravanam manoharaha tah shraddhaya me anupadam vishravatah priyashravasi anga mama bhaved ruchihi. So ruchihi, or the taste for devotional service, was generated within him by that association with the Bhakti Vedantists. O Vyasadeva, so Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of personality of Godhead increased at every step. So today, continuation with the series of Sadhu Sanga, the importance of Sadhu Sanga, association with pure devotees. I'm going to tell you a story about a palanquin or a pallaki. There was once a pallaki, and there's a story about this pallaki. But before I tell you the story, I want to show you this map. Some of you may be familiar with this country, the area. Some of you may not be, especially children grown up here may not have seen this map. This is a map of the Indian subcontinent. And many years back, thousands of years back, there was this kingdom called Sindhu Shauvira. You can see the area that is circled, Sindhu Shauvira. It's very small. You may not be able to read that small font. Sorry about that. But that area, which is the present-day Pakistan, southern part especially, where the Sindhu river is flowing, there used to be a kingdom called Sindhu Shauvira. And that kingdom of Sindhu Shauvira had a king. And that king would sometimes come out of his kingdom, and when he traveled, as kings used to in those days, this king would travel on a palanquin, a pallaki, and there would be some carriers of that palanquin. So one day when he was going towards Kapila Muni's ashram, he was taking out his procession, his palanquin, and he was going towards Kapila Muni's ashram. Kapila Muni's ashram, at the time, that was somewhere in the eastern part of what is shown as Magadha here, somewhere in that area. So he was traveling towards that, and somewhere in between, he met one very interesting person. And this changed the life of the king. So let's see what happened exactly. I would like you to chant this difficult verse. It's a bit difficult. This verse is slightly tongue twister kind of a verse, and the meter is also not very easy, but please try. Sachapi Pandaveya Sindhu Sauvira Patistattva Jignasayam Samyak Shraddhaya Dikritadhikarastad Dridaya Granthi. Yes, it's a little difficult. It's difficult. It is difficult because then other things which are about to come will not fit. So, yeah, I'm sorry. But it is a little difficult. It's okay. You can try whatever you're able to see. I know it's sometimes difficult to see, especially with advancing age. Even I would not have been able to see from there. Sachapi Pandaveya Sindhu Sauvira Patistattva Jignasayam Samyak Shraddhaya Dhikritadhikaratas Tadhridaya Granthi. Shraddhaya Adhikrita Adhikaras. Shraddhaya Adhikrita Adhikaras. Just say these words separately. Shraddhaya Adhikrita Adhikaras. Samyak Shraddhaya Adhikrita Adhikaras Tadhridaya Granthi. And if you see Tad and then Hridaya, when you combine it, it becomes Tad Hridaya. So that's why the D is there for the Hridaya also. Otherwise, heart. Hridaya is heart. Tad Hridaya Granthi is a knot in the heart. Mochanam Dvijavacha Ashrutya Bahuyoga Grantha Sammatam. Mochanam Dvijavacha Ashrutya Bahuyoga Grantha Sammatam. Tvaraya Varuhya Shirasa Padamulam Upashrita Kshamapayan. Tvaraya, can you just say Tvaraya? Tvaraya. Avaruhya. Tvaraya Varuhya. Shirasa, with my head. Padamulam, at your lotus feet. Upashritaha. Kshamapayan, please forgive. Vigatan Ripadeva Smaya Uvacha. Okay, let us see what this means. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Shauvira states, Maharaj Rahugana, had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jadabharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jadabharata in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahmana. He then prayed as follows. So now, this king that we've been talking about, who went from his kingdom of Sindhu Shauvira towards Kapilashrama, who was on the palanquin, that king is King Rahugana. And this King Rahugana has come in contact with a person by the name Jadabharata. And for some reason, he is falling at the feet of Jadabharata. So let's see why. Why is he falling at the feet of this person called Jadabharata? So you see, Jadabharata was a great self-realized person, very great personality, completely detached from the bodily conception of life. He used to behave like a mad person, completely illiterate. He used to behave like that, completely mad person. To the degree that people in his family and his surroundings in his village, everybody thought that he's a complete good-for-nothing mad fellow. His own father, who was very much attached to him, he used to try to give him some knowledge. He would try to get him to a school, try to get him educated. And because he was born in a Brahmana family, his father gave him the sacred thread, the Brahminical thread, and tried to teach him the Gayatri mantra. But this Jadabharata person, he completely refused to learn anything. And he used to do everything the opposite way, whatever was taught. For example, he would never take bath. Whenever he would evacuate, when he would go party, you should wash your hands after party. Correct? Anybody here does not wash hands after party? Anybody? I think everybody does, right? Wash his hands. But he used to wash hands before going to party, not after going to party. So everybody thought he was completely mad. Anybody does like that? Washing hands before party, not after party. What kind of person that will be? But he was completely self-realized soul. And he was pretending to be a foolish person just so that he doesn't get mixed up with the ordinary people. He did not want any honor from the society, because the moment people knew about his real intelligence, about his real position, they may start offering him honor. They may start giving him respect. They may start giving him social position. And he didn't want any of that. And because he didn't want any of that, he completely stayed aloof from the society. And to the degree that he would do anything that anybody would tell him. In his family, after his father passed away, and his mother also passed away, he had some stepbrothers. The stepbrothers used to give him some work. Hey, why don't you go get this water? He will get the water. Why don't you go and do some work in the field? He will do something. But he will do everything opposite, because he was pretending to be a completely foolish person. But because he would not expect anything in return, and he would just work for some food, whatever food was given, stale food, spoilt food, completely fallen in the mud, any kind of food. Whatever food came on its own, he would just accept the food. So his brothers took advantage of that and say, all right, I think you have got a very stout body, because he had a very strong body, very, very strong. He was like a bull, strong like a bull. So they said, you should guard this field. Just stand there and make sure no animals come into the field. So he used to stand like that and just guard, make sure no wild animals, wild pigs, and all those animals would not come into the field. So he used to do that. And when he was doing this, from that coincidentally, the king Rahugana, he came that side on a palanquin. And but before that, there is one more incident that happened with Jadabharata, which is that when he was guarding the fields one day, some dacoits came there. These dacoits, the leader of the dacoits, like dacoits also have a society, they have leaders and followers. So there was one king among dacoits. That king, he had some material desire. I think he wanted to have a child or something like that. He wanted to have a good child. Good child means a good dacoit child. And so he wanted to worship and please goddess Kali. So he had this practice that to please goddess Kali, there would be some sacrifices done. This particular occasion, he wanted to please her very nicely. So he wanted to sacrifice something better than an animal. Usually they would sacrifice animals, but this time he wanted to do something better than animal. It was considered that somebody who's completely mad, and a human being who's completely crazy, completely mad, is as good as an animal. He has no idea what's happening to him. You take him and kill him, he will not even know what's going on. So in that mind, of course, not true. There's a difference between a human being killed and animal being killed. But the dacoits, right, their consciousness was like that. So he was searching for somebody who was an animalistic kind of a human being. So he found somebody somewhere, and he was about to sacrifice him. But that person was somehow smart enough to escape. So he escaped off. So now he told his followers, go find me one more man animal like that, animalistic man. So his followers came, and they saw this Jadabharata standing there guarding the fields, very strong, but completely dumb acting. So they thought, oh, this is the right person. Goddess Kali will be very pleased with this sacrifice. So they caught him. Now this Jadabharata, self-realized soul, very strong. If he had wanted, he could have killed all of them. But he was so detached, he said, okay, after all, I am a spirit soul. I am in this body. Somebody kills this body, what for me? Let them take. So he allowed the dacoits to take him, arrest him. They bound him up, and then they took them to their camp, and they decorated him nicely with all different kinds of ornaments, clothes, like they would decorate a cow. Say in November 2nd, we're going to have Govardhan Puja, right? We'll decorate, sometimes we get a cow and we decorate, especially in India, that's done in a big scale. Very nicely, the cows will be decorated. And sometimes when they take some animals for slaughter, not to Govardhan Puja, not an example, but different, like goats sometimes, right? They will put some vermilion, they'll put some kind of a goat's dress for that. And sometimes they would put nowadays that doesn't happen. Nobody has money for all that. Somehow they take loan and buy one goat for sacrifice. But formerly it was done in an elaborate way. So, especially by people with lower consciousness who like to sacrifice animals. So they dressed him up nicely and took him for sacrifice. And then that one person was there who was going to kill him. A very sharp sword, nice, about to kill him. And Jadabharata is standing there, no problem, nothing, kill, no, I have no problem. But goddess Kali, who was standing there in the form of a murti, she saw that the pure devotee of the Lord, a self-realized soul, advanced Brahmana, is about to be killed. She could not take it. Immediately that murti, the vigraha, burst open. And goddess Kali came out like that, the teeth blaring. And she took the same sword with which he was about to be sacrificed and beheaded all the dacoits who were standing there. All the dacoits. And then the associates of Kali, they also came. They're all witches and ghosts. So they all came and they started drinking the blood of all those dacoits. And thus Jadabharata was saved. Not that Jadabharata had care. He did not care. For him, he is an eternal spirit soul. He did not want to be saved. He did not even ask to be saved. But goddess Kali, she could not tolerate a devotee of the Lord being put into difficulty, and immediately came and did that. So after some time, so this is the greatness of Jadabharata. Then after some time, when this king was coming that way, one of they needed one extra palanquin carrier. The palanquin is going on, there need to be some people to carry it. So they needed one person, and they saw that this person is lying there. He just has one small dhoti, like this chadar one he is wearing around his waist, nothing else. Body is fully covered in mud. And but he was strong looking, very strong. So they thought, okay, this person is sufficient for carrying palanquin. And they ordered, you come here, carry this palanquin. So he said, okay, all right, I'll carry. And he started carrying. But the palanquin was not going steadily. It was not going straight. It was going sometimes like this, sometimes like that. Sometimes suddenly it will stop. Sometimes suddenly it will go forward. The king, Rahuguna, who was sitting there, he was disturbed. What is going on here? You people, you don't know, you're not taking this seriously. Such an important service you're doing. You're carrying the king. That too not ordinary kingdom. Sindhu Sauvira king. Of course, Sindhu Sauvira is just a small province now, if you see in the map. Maybe in those days it was a big province, big state. But he thought like it is the king of the whole universe. He thought like that. What your people are not doing your work properly. So they immediately were very fearful for punishment. See, actually, this king Rahuguna at the time, these people that he was using for carrying the palanquin, they were not getting any salary for that. They were not getting any payment. They were just people that they would catch. The soldiers would catch, ordinary people going here and there. Say, oh, you come here. If you don't come, you'll be killed or you'll be given some punishment. So out of fear for punishment, they used to do that work. Not that they were getting any money for it. So anyway, so he said, are you not afraid of punishment? What are you doing? So immediately they came and said, no, we are actually doing very sincerely. But there is one new person who has come, one fresh graduate, undergraduate person, first year maybe. He has come here and he is not keeping up pace with us. He's not able to maintain the speed. So the king said, oh really, okay, just for one person I should not punish everybody. Then he calls that one person. He says, what are you doing? Maybe this load is too much for you. So he spoke a little sarcastically at first. Looks like you have come a long way and you must be very, very tired. Looks like you've not had proper food. Actually, he was very well built and very strong. But king spoke sarcastically, without directly criticizing him, but indirectly criticizing. So Rahuguna did not say much. He went back, and again same thing happened. This time king got really wild, really angry. What is going on? Are you not afraid? Come on, I'm going to really punish you this time. No sarcastic talking and all. That time is over. Now straightforward, I'm going to tell you, you are number one rascal. What kind of person are you? Not even carrying the small thing properly. Such a big body you have got. So like that, nicely he scolds him. Now Jadabharata takes a different view. So Jadabharata is not even slightly perturbed. He's not disturbed at all. Great self-realized person. There is a king who is blaspheming him, who's criticizing him so openly. And Jadabharata is not disturbed. Now Jadabharata reveals his true identity. He says, you are thinking you are the king, but this is temporary. In this life, right now, this situation, you appear to be the king and I appear to be the master. But in a moment, this could change. I could become the king. You could become my servant. And you're thinking that this body is tired, but actually, or you're thinking that I am tired, but I am the soul. I am not the body. How can the soul be tired? Soul is never tired. Soul is never hungry. Soul is never impoverished. Soul is never thin, not skinny. There is a body. These are the characteristics of the body. So, King Rahuguna was a little shocked. Who is this person speaking about the subject of soul and the body? And he was completely taken aback. Then he noticed that this person, he actually is wearing a sacred thread, which he had not seen because his whole body was covered with mud. It was not visible. And he says, oh, he appears to be a very saintly person. I have offended the saintly person. And he comes out of his palanquin and profusely apologizes to King Rahuguna. And he says that I failed to recognize that you are such a great personality. And whatever you are saying about the fact that the body is different from the soul, and the fact that my being a king is temporary, is all completely true. And I have heard this before, but I could not recognize you, and those words which I have heard before were not really ingrained in me, and therefore my behavior, it could not come out. So I am clearly a fool. I'm completely ignorant. So please instruct me on how I can actually make spiritual progress. With this statement, he fell flat in front of King Rahuguna, in front of Jadabharata, and sought his forgiveness. So what followed after that was a conversation between Jadabharata and King Rahuguna. And at the end of that conversation, King Rahuguna, all his doubts were dispelled and his illusion was completely gone, and he became completely renounced and self-realized. So this is the story of Jadabharata and King Rahuguna. There are a few things that we can take away from this incident. This entire episode is given tremendous importance in Srimad Bhagavatam. This whole pastime of Jadabharata, where first Jadabharata's background is described, his glories are described, and then the chance meeting with King Rahugana is described. The conversation between King Rahugana and Jadabharata is described, and in the end, the net result of King Rahugana becoming fully liberated, that is also described. All of this takes 7 full chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam. 7 chapters. And some of us who have been attending Srimad Bhagavatam classes on Sunday mornings, we have seen how some of these chapters take several weeks for us to cover. One verse at a time, one Sunday, and so many verses are there in a chapter. 7 chapters. So it's very, very important episode of this interaction between Rahugana. So what can we learn from this? There are some very important things that can be learned. So one thing that I would like to draw your attention is this translation. I know it's a bit small, the font, but try to see the first sentence. O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Shauvira states, Maharaj Rahuguna, had great faith in the discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jadabharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all the scriptures on the mystic yoga process and which slackens the knot in the heart. So we are here to learn about Sadhu Sanga, association with devotees. But this is talking about some qualifications that are important to take advantage of such a devotee association. So if somebody wants to really take advantage of devotee association, what are the qualifications? So if you see from here, the qualifications that Rahugana had, he had great faith. That's what the translation says. He had great faith. Why? Because in the past, before this interaction, he had already heard and he had already participated in discussions about tattva, absolute truth. And as part of, and gradually having been exposed to those discussions, he had developed great faith. So as soon as Jadabharata spoke about the difference between the body and the soul, and as soon as he started talking about the real constitutional position of who I really am, what is this world, immediately the king could relate that, oh, this is a discussion about absolute truth. I must take this seriously. This is not just some ordinary palanquin carrier. There is a great personality here. This is serious. He could immediately take it seriously. And that happened because he had been already prepped for it. He was qualified for it. And what is the qualification? He had great faith in tattva jigyasa. That is there in the verse. If I just go before, if you see here, the first line, Sachapi Pandaveya Sindhu Shauvira Patis Tattva Jigyasayam. So Tattva Jigyasa is curiosity about the absolute truth. So if somebody has curiosity, a little bit of curiosity, who am I? Why am I suffering? Why am I here in this world? If somebody has a little bit of curiosity, then when he's participating in a discussion, then something will go in. One has to be seeking some knowledge. If one is not seeking knowledge, if one does not have curiosity, then there would be no interest in what is being spoken. It would be a ritual that, okay, I must come and sit because it must be done. My spiritual master has said, must attend Bhagavatam class. I will attend Bhagavatam class. Yes, that's very good. That's necessary. Obedience to the spiritual master indicates Shraddha in spiritual master. So great faith in spiritual master is very important. And because of the faith, we are all participating in these discussions. But to take real benefit from the discussion, to really benefit from devotee association, one must also have faith in the process of discussion. And if you see, Sauvira Patis Tattva Jigyasayam, that is translated as he had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. And if you see the word-to-word translation, it is Tattva Jigyasayam, in the matter of inquiring about the absolute truth. See the Prabhupada, how he is bringing about a slight difference here. This is scrutinizingly, if we read, we can understand a lot from Prabhupada's purports. So here, the translation says, I am curious, like he had great faith in inquiring about absolute truth, right? So somebody could say, oh yeah, I have a lot of curiosity. What's the temperature today? What's the weather today? Or I have curiosity even about the self. But how does it manifest? Here, the importance is given to the faith. If you have faith in inquiring about the truth, then it must manifest in faith in discussions about the truth. If it doesn't translate into faith in discussions, that is not sufficient qualification to really take benefit of Sadhu Sangha. So this is a very, very, very crucial point of difference. That first of all, one must have faith in curiosity. The fact that one must have this curiosity to inquire about who I am, why am I here. Second is that there is a process outlined in the scriptures for how to manifest that curiosity, which is by discussions about absolute truth. So that is one very important point. Then there is another verse after this. Please repeat after me. Kastam nigudhas charasi dvijananam bibharsi sutram katamo avadhutaha kasyasi kutratya ihapi kasmat kshemayanaschedasi nota shuklaha kastvam nigudhas charasi dvijanam bibharsi sutram katamo avadhutaha kasyasi kutratya ihapi kasmat kshemayanaschedasi nota shuklaha. So there is something very interesting that is said in this verse, which comes very immediately after the previous verse. Let us see what is being said. King Rahuguna said, "O Brahmana, you appear to be moving in this world very much covered and unknown to others. Who are you? Are you a learned Brahmana and saintly person? I see that you are wearing a sacred thread. Are you one of those exalted, liberated saints such as Dattatreya and other highly advanced learned scholars? May I ask whose disciple you are? Where do you live? Why have you come to this place? Is your mission in coming here to do good for us? Please let me know who you are." And Prabhupada says in the purport of this verse that King Rahuguna was very anxious to know about who Jadabharata was. Who is this person? Very eager. So, if you look at the qualifications that we just saw, when you have great faith in Tattva Jigyasa, in the process of discussion, it leads to eagerness to hear. So the eagerness to hear, if you want to really take advantage of Sadhu Sanga, then there has to be an eagerness to hear. And the eagerness to hear is coming from development of great faith. So now the question becomes, how do we develop such a great faith? It's King Rahuguna had that because presumably he had already participated in such conversations. But how do we develop such a faith? So there is one verse which was quoted by Sadananda Prabhu recently in Bhagavatam class. I think it was yesterday. He said, he had quoted from Bhagavad Gita, that if you don't have that faith, then what happens? And then the purport of that of a verse in Bhagavad Gita, where that is explained, if you don't have that faith, what happens? In the purport of that, the formula for developing faith is also given. So let us see what that verse is. That verse, I'm not projecting it, I'm just going to chant it. You can repeat after me. Ashraddadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Varthamani. This is being said by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So Krishna is saying that if we don't have that faith, then we're not going to be successful in devotional service at all. We're not going to reach Krishna. So it is very important for us to reach. So Prabhupada says that because this is so important, and yet it is so difficult to obtain normally, but in this age, as Lord Chaitanya, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself has given the formula for developing that faith. Initially, one may have a little bit of faith in just coming here to the temple, little bit of faith in sitting through a class, little bit of faith in hearing. But that is followed by chanting of Hare Krishna. When we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By this process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, in the association of devotees, congregationally, singing the kirtan, as well as doing japa alone at home. In both this process and concurrently hearing the Bhagavata Katha, when we follow this process, then what happens? We saw Hridaya Granthi. In the previous verse we had heard Granthis, Hridaya Granthis. So these knots in the heart, they get completely destroyed. What is that verse? Abhadrani, Hridayantasto hi Abhadrani. Vidhunoti Suhritsatam. So by hearing of Bhagavatam, regular attentions Bhagavatam, Srinvatam, Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, all the dirt in the heart, which is preventing us from having strong faith in this discussion. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu. So all these are completely destroyed. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So the devotional service is awakened through this process of devotional service, which starts with chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, so we will stop here and we'll go to the next program of Damodar Ashtakam. Kartik Maas Maha Mahotsav Ki